What's up guys, it's Jerry Wilson, also known as the Dockman, and today I'm going to show you how to install a Liftech direct drive motor. They come in AC and DC models. Today we'll be installing a DC model, which means it ultimately is going to be hooked up to a battery and solar panel. But whether it's AC or DC with Liftech, the actual installation, which is what we're focusing on, of the direct drive to the winch box is going to be the same. So the first thing you're going to need is a 9/16 wrench, 9/16 ratchet, a 15/16 wrench, a set of vice grips, and a Phillips screwdriver, or in this case we're using an impact gun with a Phillips bit. Now the first thing that you do before anything else is you take this winch wheel, spin it to the left, and lower the cradle of the lift all the way down. This is a really important first step because if you have that cradle up and suspended and you go to step number 2, which is taking this wheel off, the cradle will fall down, the cable will probably backwind, and it's going to make some problems. So that being said, cradle all the way down, which we're in the down position here. Next up, you're going to take this 5/16 bolt out with your 9/16 socket. This is the set bolt that holds the winch wheel on. Now that the bolt's out, this wheel will thread right off and it'll leave you with a winch box exposed to put the motor on. In order to get this wheel off, what we have to do is take the top of the winch box off. This exposes everything inside so that you can take your vice grips and hold the drum from spinning, allowing you to back this wheel off. My vice grips are clamped on the shaft of the spool. They're going to go and hit against the side of the winch box and allow me to back this wheel off of the winch box. Once the wheel is off, remove the fiber disc that comes from the manufacturer. This you can get rid of or keep in case you ever want to put the manual wheel back on. The next thing we do is remove the paddle that's inside here for when it's a manual winch. That's going to be a 9/16 wrench, 2 9/16 wrenches actually. So take the paddle off, take the spring off, and we're good. So now we have the winch wheel off, the paddle out, everything that you don't need is gone. And next we are going to unbox the Liftech motor and start putting on the pieces that adapt the Liftech to the winch box. All right. Warranty card, you'll want to fill this out and send it in to get your warranty. Liftech has a heck of a warranty. This is going to be your install kit. This one says most common, which most common works for these Great Lakes winch boxes, Lorenz winch boxes, and quite a few others. Liftech also makes install kits for Shore Station, Portadock, Newcraft, pretty much anything that has a standard winch box, they'll make an install kit for. In this case, like I said, we're using most common. Open this up and it's going to have all your parts and pieces that are going to adapt this Liftech motor to the winch box. Instructions, very good instructions, but today we can throw those away because the Dockman is showing you how to put a Liftech motor on. Spacers, spline. That's our next step. Open the package. Put your spacer, your new fiber disc aside, and take the spline out. Fiber disc goes on. The spline is going to thread right onto the threads that we took the winch wheel off of. Tighten it down as tight as you can with your hand. Maybe even set the vice grips that are holding on to the drum inside over to the other side of the box and really give it a turn so that seats in place against that fiber disc. Next we take our spacer, slide it over the spline. Now it's time for the Liftech motor to come out of the box. So now that we have our spline on, we're going to take the Liftech motor and we're going to slide the grooves of the spline inside the grooves of the motor. Turn it back and forth a little bit and you'll feel when it slides on. And there it's seated in place. Next up, you're going to take the bolt that was in the hardware package, and that's going to thread right into the end of this spline. That's going to hold this motor on so it doesn't back off during operation up and down. Thread it in with your fingers to start, Should thread in real smooth. If it's not going smooth, you've got it cross-threaded. Back it out, give it another try. Now, this part is really important. Take your 15/16 wrench, get it on the bolt. Make sure your vice grips that are holding the drum from turning inside are secured so that you can put a reasonable amount of torque on this bolt. If you don't, I've seen it happen. Homeowners will install them themselves and they won't hold that drum from turning, and they think they're getting the bolt tight, but really all they're doing is turning the drum. The bolt essentially is looser than it should be, and after hours of operation or days of operation, this bolt starts to back out and this motor wants to come off. Make sure that you get a hold of the drum or the shaft on the drum to stop things from turning, and that you put a good amount of torque on this bolt to hold this thing in place. After you have that on, the next part is going to be your strapping that goes around the motor and the motor mount that holds this from moving to and fro when you're operating the lift. Strapping that goes around the motor, motor mount, and here's your spacer and nut to be able to secure it to the winch box. Get it to where the strap opens up so that you can slide it around the motor. So this is going to squeeze around the motor, hook to the motor mount, and then we're going to put the motor mount right there on the winch box. So now that I have this sitting in place, I'm going to go ahead and take the bolt out that we're going to secure to. This bolt comes out because that's where our motor mount is going to hook to. Okay, that hole's open, so now we can connect to it. Take your spacer and put it behind to offset it out of the winch box. Get your washer and your nut on the other side. I like to just finger tighten it on and leave it loose while I'm fitting and finishing everything, and then we'll tighten it down at the end. Looks like everything's lining up here nicely. Get your bolt through the motor strap all the way through. Get your arm for the motor mount up. Son of a bitch. It's not gonna fit. I was in the wrong hole. That's why they give you these two slotted holes. There's a little bit of testing and measuring that goes on. It's different for each winch box and each different lift. So I pulled out and moved to the other hole. So now we're in the correct slot. We've got our strap on the motor with the bolt all the way through it. This can get a little bit tricky. You got to squeeze everything together here. Get yourself enough threads to get your nut started. Okay. All right, now you have everything just kind of dry fit, very loosely on there. You're going to look at the motor and make sure everything's nice, straight, level, square. Looks good to me. Now I'm going to get my 9/16 wrench and ratchet and tighten this down. I usually start with the strap on the motor. I don't know if that matters, but that's just what I do. You could probably start tightening over here, just as long as you're holding everything nice, straight, and on to where it needs to be on the motor. I think as you're tightening it down, you'll kind of feel where exactly everything needs to squeeze in place. Okay, then you're gonna come here and you're gonna tighten the bolt that holds this onto the winch box. Again, just make sure everything's holding straight, and we can use our speed wrench on this one. I always like to give the other wrench that's on the nut side a turn too, so the bolt isn't just binding into the hole, so that the nut's actually held in place. We can take our cover and put that back on now because we're done inside here. Take our vice grips off because we're done inside the winch box here. Put the lid back on. All right, and that's it. In this particular case, you're going to hook a battery up to this model. If it was AC, you're going to plug it into a GFI outlet. But nonetheless, that's your actual installation of the direct drive. Now to operate, you're either going to hit the up and down button on here, or use these really cool key fobs, and you can do it remotely. That's how you install a LiftTech direct drive motor. Thanks for watching, guys.